Hello, friends. I'm Jacqueline of Light Path Therapy and also other sundry internet projects and shit. But hi, I'm here to talk about some shit today. I want to ultimately talk about disrupting the fucking narratives that are just running in your head. And I want to frame it by sharing a little bit about my own experience. And now I need to preface this with your mileage will vary. My experience is my own. Yours is going to be different, but there's likely a lot of parallels. What I'm going to talk about tool-wise is something that you can apply to your own life, regardless of the flavor of your self-loathing. I have spent a lot of years untangling a lot of bad shit that I believed about myself. A lot of this bad shit originates from childhood. And I would wager to suggest that that's that way for most of us. A lot of our learned behaviors and patterned toxic patterns will come from shit we learn as children, coping mechanisms that allow us in certain types of households to survive. Oftentimes, there are parents who haven't worked their own shit out, and so they will pass on maybe not the most supportive ways of being to their kids. My parents in particular had a lot of shit that they had not worked out, and I am very, very fortunate because I do know that they love me and they love me dearly. I'm fortunate to have this backbone within my upbringing. But at the same time, my parents were deeply broken people. For example, one of my parents comes from a narcissistic upbringing. So the parent in that situation that was the narcissist was also in a situation very similar. It works out generationally, so it just kind of gets passed down from generation to generation. These patterns, these ways of coping, these beliefs, and these influences just kind of perpetuate throughout the generations. My parent, who had the narcissistic upbringing, then brought into my upbringing narcissistic traits. This parent wasn't a full-blown narcissist, though in their upbringing, I think that they were certainly subject to a full-blown narcissist. So they took on a lot of those traits, but not all of them. But this influence was in my childhood. And if you're familiar with the narcissistic family dynamic of the golden child and the scapegoat, I can tell you right now I was never the golden child. So this resulted in a adulthood long journey that continues to this day and continues to evolve, of me finding ways to feel good about who I am because I internalized a lot of shit about myself. I believed, because of the ways that I was often treated when I was growing up, I believed that my natural inclinations, what I wanted, all of those things that were so quintessential to my character were less than. I believed that I was never good enough. I have always had a natural inclination towards the arts. I have always been a very intuitive person, and I was led to believe in my childhood that that made me less than. That I wasn't practical enough, that I wasn't therefore going to be successful. And a lot of this conditioning was born out of fear because my parent believed that that's the only way to be successful, is to fit into this box. And so that was imparted upon me, and it made a fucking huge detriment. That shit can really limit what you experience in your life when you have these internalized beliefs about being less than. So I have always struggled with worthiness because of what I was taught in my childhood. And now I do need to say that I do not begrudge my parents for how I was brought up, because like I said, this shit is generational, so it's passed down. My parents had very likely a very similar upbringing to me, and their parents probably did too. And it has debilitated them in such heartbreaking ways, and I see that in them, and I see that looking back. And honestly, I have nothing but compassion for my parents because I understand now. I didn't back in my childhood, but I understand now that they were doing the best that they could given their upbringing. And I think that's how it is with so many folks out there. We're all doing the best that we can given the limitations that we inherited from our families. So all of this lead up to say I internalized some shitty things about myself, and I convinced myself to give up the things that brought me the most joy because I believed that those things were less than, and so then why the fuck should I have them? One of the things that I had convinced myself that I needed to give up was theater. And through the work that I have done for myself, I came to the realization that I really do want to be doing theater. That needs to be a part of my life somehow. And so I have decided that I would get involved with local community theater. And for the last year, I have been pushing myself out of my comfort zone and been doing auditions. And now, strange thing happens with auditions I've been noticing. Well, back in my teenage years, I was able to walk in just knowing that I could perform and that I could just give my best in this situation. That has changed. And my understanding of what's happening now is that for years I put this huge distance in between me and theater and me and the situation of auditioning. So when I get into an audition situation, my subconscious kicks in and says, this is danger. You said you weren't supposed to do this thing. You need to get the fuck out now. And so what happens in audition situations is I actually become fairly disembodied, like I disassociate a little bit, and I'm not able to just stand in my own quote unquote power and give the performance that I know that I'm capable of. And so it's a very disconcerting thing to watch because I see myself almost in third person view in these situations. And it's just because my fight or flight mechanism is kicking in because my body for the last decade has been conditioned to not pursue theater and to just stuff it away. So our brains work, they will react to things that we have told ourselves are not good for us. So when you're in that situation, your body goes, I need to get you the fuck out because this isn't right. And it's just because we've endeared this pattern of thinking that suggests it. So that would be one thing if it was just the disassociation. But what happens next is really and truly the worst fucking part. And it's almost immediate. I walk out of that room and the narrative fucking hits. I'm walking to the exit to the car and already I'm just like shaking from the thoughts that are running through my head, and they are about how I'm fucking useless and how I can't do these things. It's just an immediate, huge feeling of shame and uselessness and disappointment. And so it just runs automatically. And I'm muttering under my breath this train of thought that is just the most toxic and destructive. And I have not spoken to myself that way in a very, very long time. But here it is because this situation has triggered that. I'm muttering under my breath. I'm not even really paying attention to the things that I'm saying. They're just coming out and I'm kind of making these noises because I'm so uncomfortable. And like in the car on the way home, I'm just quietly muttering under my breath. And my husband knows shit is going down, so he's not even asking me. And then I get home and I'm making dinner. And I say out loud, just throw me in the river because I don't deserve to live. And thank sweet fuck, that's the moment where my awareness kicked in. And I went, wait, what the hell are you saying to yourself? Awareness is your best fucking friend in these situations. Like, it is the thing that's gonna literally save your life sometimes. So how do you cultivate awareness? It's a concerted effort. It's a constant practice of checking in. So when I first was developing this tool for myself, and what I also tell clients is I set a timer for every 20 minutes. And every 20 minutes, when that fucker would go off, I'd ask myself, what am I thinking? And if it wasn't anything supportive, I would then ask myself if it was true. And I'd start working with it. And I'd start seeing that these narratives that I'm running, I don't have to believe them. For this fucking thing, this ugly, ugly thought of I deserve to be thrown in the river because I flubbed an audition. Is it true? No. And then I look at where there might be value in other areas of my life. That this one situation that I care very deeply about, this one situation isn't the whole of my life. I have these animals that depend on me, that bring me so much joy that I care for. There's value there. I care for them. I shouldn't be thrown in the river. I'm making a difference right here. I make and record fucking ridiculous videos on the internet and enjoy that very much. There's value there. So I start looking at ways I can consider myself valuable. And fuck, you don't even have to believe in that moment that maybe you are valuable. I just want you to consider the alternative. Consider that maybe the opposite is true, and maybe you aren't worthless. And I want you to consider the ways that maybe you have worth. You don't even need to believe that you have worth in this moment. You just need to consider the possibilities, because it softens that stance. It softens the belief that you need to be thrown in the river. You can still feel shit about yourself, and you likely will, especially in that moment, but you won't feel as bad. And the more that you can offer counters to the fucking dumb shit that you're believing about yourself, the less you will believe those shitty things, because the evidence is there and it's staring you in the face. But here's the thing, friends. It takes commitment. It takes commitment, because it isn't easy. This is never, ever easy work. It can be dark and hard. But while you may not know what life is like outside of this mental prison that you've been living in, it's worth it to just try. Because here you are. It doesn't get much worse than the vitriol that you can fucking spew at yourself. So why not make the commitment right now to yourself to start doing the work, to start setting the timers, to start checking in. You won't always be successful, but it's going to start you down a path and open up different possibilities for you. You don't have to live like that. You don't have to believe these shitty things about yourself. I believed them for a long time, and they still come up for me. I have made that commitment to myself that I'm gonna work through it no matter what. And it's hard and it's long, but honestly, it's better than living in that fucking cage. Only you can do that for you. There's nobody else that's gonna swoop in and do this work for you. You're the one who feels miserable. You're the one who can make a choice to feel differently. And making that choice doesn't automatically make it magic. That choice is the choice to do the work. And every time you fall, you pick yourself up. That is what that commitment means. It means that you are willing to explore a different possibility for yourself. Not because you even believe that you're worthy. It's because, why the fuck not? You're fucking miserable as you are right now. So why not? Why not? There's literally nothing to lose. And you could gain everything. And in my journey to keep showing up for myself, I have yet to walk out of an audition situation and feel good about it. But I'm telling you, with every single time I walk out and feel like shit, I feel a little less like shit. It was like over a year ago when I did my first audition in a near decade. I walked away and felt so awful about myself. I came home and I bawled and I got so sick. Like I was down and out with a flu for a week and a half. And I was just miserable, miserable. The second time it happened, I cried into my husband's shoulder. And I was so broken over not being able to put my best foot forward. But then I bought a puppet. And I started channeling my creativity in a different way. And then the next time it happened, I cried. But it was a little less. And this time, I still cried. But I listened to those thoughts and I fucking held myself. And then I came and I recorded this video 3 days later. And I still feel upset and I still feel disappointed. But I know that that won't last, because every time it gets a little bit easier. And I have promised myself that I'm gonna keep showing up. I'm gonna keep doing the auditions. I'm going to keep pursuing the thing that I want. Because I will not listen to those voices anymore. And I won't believe them. And I'm telling you, friends, you don't have to believe them either. Just keep committing over and over and over to yourself. I wish you nothing but love. Nothing but love and absolute freedom.